Welcome to Porch Talks. I'm Melissa Bradley, founder of 1863 Ventures and co-founder of New Majority Ventures. This summer, I invited some friends to my porch in Martha's Vineyard. These friends are seasoned leaders, funders, and entrepreneurs who are committed to creating Black wealth. I wanted to talk to them about their experiences, professional and personal. I wanted to go beyond the tips and tricks of starting a business to hear what it feels like to be part of a fast-growing entrepreneurial ecosystem. These folks have a lot to share, and I know they'll inspire you just as much as they inspired me. So I want to say thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
You are Chris Gray.
Yep.
I've known you for a pretty long time,
Yeah.
but as you acknowledged the other day, we've never really sat down and talked. So I know you as a founder. I know you as a cultural creative.
Mm-hmm.
I know you as a role model. But tell me in your own words, who is Chris Gray?
So I am originally from Birmingham, Alabama, so a Southern boy, proud, born and raised. Grew up in a single mom household. Most people in my family have middle school education, so I'm the first in my family to go to college. So education was obviously really important to me.
Sure.
I ended up getting $1 million in scholarships to go to school, so I was a good student. And I got out of poverty. Being the first in my family to go to college, pay for school, and really get out of there, because when you're in from an inner city environment, college isn't just an education. It's really physically getting out of that environment.
It's an escape.
And being able to do that. So that's why education is important to me. So I am obviously a Black man. I am also a gay man, proud and all that. And I am the CEO and founder of Scholly. So an app that productized a solution to what I faced growing up, and also this problem that so many people have with they're drowning in student debt because they couldn't find scholarships for college when there's millions and millions of dollars in scholarships that go unclaimed every year because they just don't know they exist. So, so I am a Southern Black gay man who is the CEO and founder of Scholly.
I love that. I love the way it sounds.
Yeah.
There's a lot in there that I want to make sure we uncover.
Yeah.
But let's start with, I think, the most obvious. I was joking with a friend of mine that when we were sharing your story, I was like, I wish I could have found $10,000 to go to school. Mm-hmm. But you found $1 million. And we know that most entrepreneurs start businesses based on a need they've been able to fulfill for themselves. Talk just about that journey of like even finding $1 million. Like where did you even start, and how did you get where you are?
Yeah. So look, I was naturally persistent. My first job in high school was at the Avondale Library, and I didn't have a computer at home. So because I did a really good job for the Avondale Library, they literally would let me come to the library and just use the computers. Between school computers and Avondale, that computer, they allowed me, I just spent hours, and basically I started looking for all these different scholarships. Before Scholly, it was kind of all these sites that just were kind of scraping information from the web, and it was scams. So somebody can just put up a landing page and go, oh, this is a $10,000 scholarship, give me your social security number, right? And if you're poor and uneducated, you don't know what that means. I didn't do that. I wasn't that poor and educated. I knew not to put that right there, right? So we knew that. But yeah, it was not really much creation, so it took me months. Wow. So that's why I always say when I talk about Scholly, we turn the months of looking for scholarships to minutes, because there was all this money that got unclaimed every year. So I applied for hundreds of different scholarships. Honestly, wow. I had good grades and good test scores and all that. I didn't really plan to get all of them. I just applied. I did the law of large numbers, so I'm going to get some of them. And then what was interesting, what was a good problem to have, where I started to find out after talking to the scholarship I won that I was one of the only few applicants that really applied. So,
wow.
So a lot of that $1 million that got accumulated was because I was either the only applicant or just it wasn't really many applicants. They didn't know it existed, right? In addition, merit and all that stuff like Gates and Coca-Cola, those are the bigger scholarships that I've gotten. But that was just kind of this issue. So basically, you have a lot of these people who are drowning in debt who just didn't even know these opportunities existed. But for me, months and months looking for scholarships. Then I started, the reason how I was able to apply for so many, because I realized a lot of them had the same essay requirement. It was community service, leadership, where you want to go to school, what you want to be. And I just basically recycled those essays, and that's why I was able to apply for so many. Everyone was asking, how did you do that? How did you do that? Right. And I was like, I didn't tell them because at the time, because they're my competition, but I did. Yeah. And the Gates scholarship had like 8 essays that covered all of them.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was a lot. And then, but I just recycled those essays and applied for all of them. So that was kind of that process. But it took months to find those opportunities. Yeah. It took months to apply for them. So Scholly kind of productizes a solution that fixes that search process and application process, and because of our partners, we're now putting more money into the marketplace as well, because now we have partners like Google, Amazon, celebrities who are now running their scholarships on our platform and paying us to manage those scholarships. So we're putting more money into this marketplace that where there's not just, we focused originally on mismatching it, but now we're creating that pool by adding millions and millions more dollars to that pot.
You mentioned that you were the first person in your family to go to college. Has anybody since gone?
I think I aspire some to go to community college.
Okay.
I'm going to, and I'm gonna make my brother and sister go to there. I told them that's already like covered, already saved up for that, for them to be able to go to college. But I think that there's really this important thing of breaking the cycle of poverty in families, especially Black families, right? Where one person goes to college and hopefully that sets an example for others in that family to either then go or do that. And what happens is you don't see that impact economically, over time. But I think the one important thing to know is, like, when I was going to school, I think there was around only like 9, like less than, it was in the single digits of like Black men who had like a degree. Now it's like close to 30%. So you see the impact of these different initiatives, because it happens, right? But my brother and sister go to school where they're like, they're not going to graduate till like 5-6 years. So you don't, so you see those impacts. So that, and I think that's really important to be that inflection point, and you change the trajectory of family and obviously creating generational wealth and all that stuff. So.
We talked about trajectory of education. Talk about your trajectory as a gay Black man.
So that was really, so I'm Birmingham, Alabama. so I'm
might have been a little challenging.
Yeah. So it didn't come out there. That would have been very difficult. So I went to Drexel. So I was in Philly. So being on the East Coast was actually really really helpful, and also because it just became, it gave people everywhere, right? So I became a little desensitized to it. And then also, because of my refund checks and all that stuff, I was also financially independent. So, the confidence was always really there, but I just wanted to make sure, check all these boxes and make sure that someone who's going to say something, then, I don't need them. So I didn't come out till I was 23. Okay. And also when I was dating someone, and it was another entrepreneur, and that kind of gave me that confidence. Usually, that kind of, it was like for a few months, but it just gave me that first real relationship. Really gave me that confidence, and also just, I think, being just desensitized to it, just being on the East Coast and going to New York, DC, you just see it, see that spectrum and traveling so much. So it became a little bit of a different, but and I didn't do this whole sit down conversation of coming out. I was just like, oh, I'm talking to someone, and then your parents know, right? And literally, I would go home for Christmas before I even. Like,
they look, it's about time.
Yeah, they were like, baby, like, are you talking to somebody? You can tell me if you're gay, right? I just like, it's just like they, people know, so it wasn't like a shocker. So they so it's just, but I think that just kind of like just that. I know some people do feel like they have to have that sit down conversation with Black families because you're religious, but I just kind of felt like here it is, and like I said, no one was really surprised anyway.
Well, lucky you, because some people oftentimes don't get that, positive.
It wasn't. Oh, the reaction wasn't positive.
Oh, okay.
It was more like tolerant, and also I was also sending them money too, so like this helped. Like so even if their problems coming happen behind my back. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean that was
a dinner table conversation before you got there.
Yeah, they were like, oh, good, but hey, can you give me $20?
Wow.
It wouldn't happen to my face. But
how'd that make you feel?
I knew what they were saying, but also knew how people felt, and also, like, it's just homophobia is just very present. I mean, the Black community in the South is just still there,
right? Everywhere.
But I mean, I really just try to focus and really and like I said, having such a community going within the college and other gay friends, just like I said, made me just desensitized to those feelings, right? And I had plenty of mentors, and then and there was, to be honest, there was a rift, and I kind of like post college, like right before then, there was this estrangement that kind of happened for a variety of reasons. Gotcha. I wrote a book called "Go Where There's No Path." You can read that. Yeah. But there was definitely it was some parts that there was kind of a disconnect where I kind of felt that I had to either choose my future or basically be in this cycle of bailing people out of jail and like really taking this onus of a bunch of problems and things that weren't ever really going to fix itself.
Gotcha.
And seeing other first generation students literally either have to go back home, drop out, or fail, or can't pay their rent because they're constantly just not really just helping, but like literally just basically, oh, hey, I built the uncle with the jail. Okay. Sure. 3 weeks later, he went to jail again. You're sending
Sure.
bail money, paying like it's not
Sure.
sustainable. So I chose that. So that was a few choices that were really hard. The inflection point, and it was right that year I was on Shark Tank, and I was like, I have to choose me, and I
Yeah.
have to focus on this, and it's short term pain, but long term gain, and
Sure.
but it was tough. It's a lot, but yeah, that was it.
You talked about being a Black gay man within your family.
Hmm.
We know that there's a lot of gay people who are entrepreneurs that nobody knows about. You were obviously out when you started your company. What was that experience like?
It was really interesting. There was actually one time I spoke at the Forbes. One thing I spoke at the Forbes Summit, 430 and 30 Summit, and they actually and my speaker about it. Oh, Christopher Gray, Black gay man, and that was really interesting. It actually kind of outed me to people I didn't want to
Wow.
know about,
So that's how you got introduced.
yeah, but it kind of outed me in just a different way. So it was like, oh yeah, so that's kind of actually was inadvertently, yeah. But it was interesting. I never really, it's I think the thing and something that a lot of us don't talk about is like how different gay people present themselves,
Yep.
right? Like because I wasn't like flamboyant or whatever,
Right.
like that wasn't necessarily the assumption to it. Just came from conversation.
Sure.
And
And
I've
you're from the
yeah,
South.
yeah,
So
exactly. So yeah, so it was a little different. So it didn't really affect me per se. And then again, all of the spaces I was in tech, liberal, gay people running out
Sure.
everywhere. But it was what I will say is unique as a Black gay founder. There wasn't really many of it. That was because I would go to Out in Tech and
Sure.
start out and all that. And it's really, there weren't
We're not
really
there.
many of us. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
White.
So I would say that particular something being Black and gay
Sure.
thing. So I was fine community of LGBT people, but and I just didn't really vibe them like just socially. So that was something that was an interesting experience of really finding that community within the community, right? Because when I started Scholly, like Afrotech, Morgan and I just met Afrotech really
Right.
wasn't a thing,
popping.
right?
Yeah.
So even finding other Black founders, that
Sure.
was still that kind of like emergence, right? So that community, I speak to that, didn't exist at the time. So it was really interesting navigating through that. And I think since again, I actually think guys who are probably more feminine are out like probably deal with more of that sense. But I didn't deal with that as
Yeah.
much. So it really wasn't an issue. At least it didn't get presented to me as an issue.
Yeah.
So
You mentioned you wrote a book.
yep.
Why?
Because I think that I felt like I felt like I kept telling my story over and over again, and as a tech entrepreneur, even though it's a book, I think about scale.
Sure. Sure.
So
I'm
I
with you.
can't like mentor every young person that
Yeah.
comes to me, but this book is really my book Go Where There's No Path. It's chronicles my like childhood upbringing. There's a piece about high school, there's college, and then they're starting Scholly and that journey up into just kind of us now being this profitable
Gotcha.
company. So I think it's meant to be inspiration, really, and it's really meant to like really inspire young people, particularly people of color, who oftentimes don't see starting a tech company as even
Right.
an option, right? Especially where I'm from. Like, I mean, I have a lot of friends now who are in the vineyard who all have college educated parents, and they're more exposed than
Sure.
other people. But even then, I have people who still read it because I think there are people that can relate in different ways. There's the Black experience. There's the poor student experience. There's
Right.
the gay experience. There's the college experience.
Right.
There's just being an entrepreneur, that experience. So I think it's really appeals to the audience. It speaks to a spectrum because some people may not identify with, I wasn't homeless from Birmingham, Alabama, but I understand this experience of being an entrepreneur and building your company
Sure.
and growing it, making the right hire, making mistakes. So I think that you can identify, there's kind of a spectrum where I think the book talks about that people can potentially identify with. And a big inspiration of mine was actually Chris Gardner,
Oh, yeah.
who actually did a quote for the book and that with the forward. And I really like the pursuit of happiness kind of vibe, but kind of had the tech spin on it, because I like that. That story was there. So I was able to meet him. He actually book, and the person that wrote my book actually wrote the pursuit of happiness.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my co-author.
That's
So,
awesome. That's awesome.
cool.
You said the book chronicles different aspects of your life. What was the most significant thing that happened to you in high school?
It was winning scholarship within the scholarship. That moment when I won a bunch of scholarships, but in that moment I got that email from the Gates Millennium Scholarship that you have a full ride in where you want to go to. That was it, because that was like that ticket. That was it. So I think that was the most eye-opening experience because suddenly I was able to go to college, and I was able to go to college debt free.
Wow.
Go where I want, and I was able to get, they also paid my personal expenses, so I was able to get
Wow.
money to be able to live, and because I couldn't, my family couldn't send me money
Right.
there, so that because that's a huge thing that blocks some people from going
Sure.
to or staying with retention and going and even graduating because they can't do daily
Right.
expenses, and going to school like Drexel University where people are mostly coming from money.
Yep.
It was some people struggle, you can't keep up,
Yeah.
people are taking vacation and all that stuff, right? So and so that was this, and that was just also neat that I couldn't fail.
Yeah.
Right? So there's like, it's kind of like when founders raise capital, it's like raising money is hard, but then it's like, oh, now the expectations, now
That's
I
right.
got to hit the goal.
That's right.
Right? So so I was always afraid to have to go back. So I actually didn't drink till I was like 23.
Wow.
I was it was lit out of fear of like, I'm gonna get drunk, something happened. I'm saying all these like white kids get drunk, and
Right.
I can't.
I'm going back to Birmingham.
I don't have that luxury,
Yeah.
right? I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to fail.
Yeah.
So it's just like, again, like that kind of conundrum. But that was like the most pivotal moment in my life. I remember that. I still have that email. And ironically, when I was able to, the same guy that sent me an email actually, Larry Griffith, he's actually still at UNCF. He actually introduced me to Bill Gates, and when I was actually they flew us out there, ran, it was like 20 scholars who went off and became successful, and they were able to meet them, and Bill Gates, I mean, that was like a 5-minute conversation. So Bill Gates,
5 minutes more than most
Bill
people.
Gates. But yeah, it was really it was really just a full circle moment. So yeah, it was really interesting.
Does Bill Gates know you're a tech founder now?
Yep. So they told him all about Scholly
Okay.
and everything like that, and because of that, and also we're a good example of just kind of what the scholarship is
Sure.
done. So I was able to meet him twice, ASU GSV. He spoke there,
Okay.
and I spoke, but I didn't speak on that like on the same panel or anything. I did this presentation.
You were in the room.
And the Gates Foundation found out. I told someone from the Gates Foundation I was there. They put me at their table, and
Nice.
then they and it was actually really interesting. Like his security team like freaked out, and it was like they put me like in this like area where he was walking, and it was like 10 security guards.
Oh, gosh.
And spoke to him for they spoke to him a few minutes. So they do know he's a tech founder. I met him again at the Gates, another Gates Foundation event where they actually flew us out. And it was actually, I thought it was gonna be a big thing. It was actually like 30 people who just wanted to meet. So we had a little dinner and all that. It was like a few hours with him and Melinda that was their time. So it was good at full circle moment. It's Bill Gates, right?
Sure.
So he's like, I hope he remembers me, but
I'm sure.
I don't know, but hopefully it's that serious thing. I appreciate the Gates Foundation because that paid for me to go to school,
Right.
and they have been obviously very supportive even now and give me access to certain opportunities and things like that in terms of what we've been doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It all worked out.
I don't remember.
Bill
Actually.
Gates is not the first famous person you got to hang out with. You were on Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Personally, what was that like?
So when so we were featured on USA Today. I was in college, and the producer actually reached out to a professor of mine, with this entrepreneurship school they had, and it's like, hey, who's this? This company is really interesting. I actually didn't take it seriously when the producer reached out because at the time Shark Tank mostly did like more mom and pop shop or e-commerce.
It was early days, yeah.
Yeah, very e-commerce based business with physical products,
Yep.
right? They didn't have a lot of tech companies on it, barely any at that time. So I was like, oh, okay. I told them what I was doing, told my story. They really liked it because at the end of the day, it's TV, right? So they're producing a segment, and they liked the story. I told them about the idea they loved. I told them about the metrics we had at the time. It was relatively new, and then they told me to send. We love start sending an audition tape. I went to the Drexel video production team and said, "Can you do this?" Of course they did it because the school looked good, and they sent it. And they sent it out. And actually, I got my USA Today article through press. So my first PR firm was actually like Drexel's PR firm. I went to the head of comm and said, "You know what? They loved my story," and I was like, can you pitch me? And they would literally pitch. And, they just wanted Drexel to be mentioned.
Sure.
So I got the article to them. So that's my first PR. It was free. I went to a lot of press. TechCrunch, all that stuff was literally just
good.
Yeah. So, and then we did that. And then, they reached out and I sent the audition tape that loved it. We wanted to fly you to LA. So interesting experience because that was a nerve-wracking experience. I had weekly pitches, sometimes by like 3 times a week with the producers. They wanted to make sure to follow the business, make sure what we were doing. And because when you go to LA, you can so you get there, you can film and you cannot even air.
Right.
And that you can get there and not even film.
Wow.
So it was very
That's
interesting.
a big investment of time.
So I was supposed to film on a Friday, I think, when I first went out there, and basically ran out of time. Because they filmed the segments for an hour and 30 minutes. They filmed at that time it was 10 a day.
Wow.
And it was about, filmed about an hour and 30 minutes, 2 hours. So they went over time, basically came to me and was like, hey, either you don't have to, either you can stay till tomorrow, and we're packed. Like we already have the
Wow.
house filled, so you have to hope that someone, or you can come back in September, which is in a few months, but you may not come back, right? So what do you want to do? And I said I stayed. So what I did was
Did they pay for you to stay? You had to pay for your
no,
stay?
they paid
Okay,
they
good.
paid for me to stay.
Okay.
So and what I did was I could say this in hindsight. I went to the entrepreneurs and say we were all in the trailer. We were all in the
Oh,
same
wow.
hotel trailer, and we were all talking about what happened and all that stuff. And I was like, they said like y'all make this 30 minutes. You got to be quick, like and do that to some of the entrepreneurs. And I was like the producers, I was like,
See.
and I don't know if it worked, but it kind of worked because they went faster, and I was the last person. They did
Wow.
too. And so fun fact before I kind of continue is that the day I was supposed to film the two sharks, at least one of the two of the sharks that I got an investment from, Dave and Lori, weren't on the panel on that Friday.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So it was actually a moment that, everything happens for a reason.
Sure.
And I ended up with the two sharks. But that was a really interesting experience. You got about 40. I did follow my own advice, like 45 minutes.
Okay.
The segments were like 7 minutes. Lori gave me an offer within 15 minutes on the conversation.
Wow.
And and what I will say on the so I got the deal with Damon and Lori. I asked for to be honest, when I got on the show, I was like very PR driven.
Sure.
So I'd say, okay, let me just just ensure I get a deal.
Gotcha.
And I don't really, because I know that they change things and all that stuff. So I was focused on that. So I'm not really evaluation, and I know all those things because you're able to negotiate that after the fact.
Sure.
So
That's that big disclaimer at the end, like what you saw here.
Yeah,
may or may not happen.
Yeah, and also when you do, and also producers like people understand it's TV. Like
Right.
you can't. Every entrepreneur went in there and asked for exactly
That's
what
right.
they wanted to. They'd be like, oh, $3 million for like 1%.
That's right.
So they kind of usher you into what to say.
Okay.
So and people don't know that, but. I don't know if I should, but yeah, I probably should say that. But yeah, and because it's entertaining, you negotiate after. So got that. Started the biggest fight to this day in Shark Tank history.
Wow.
Damon and Lori invested in my company. Lori gave me an offer right away. And then Damon came in, little information, and they said they wanted the deal. But Mark, the three white sharks, Mark Cuban, Robert Hershevak, Kevin O'Leary wanted me to ask me more questions, and I'm like, I got two people giving me what I want,
right?
And I'm not about to look stupid, and I'm thinking to myself, I've seen the show before,
right?
I've seen people say no,
I'm done.
They
I'm
give me
good.
exactly what I'm asking. Two people,
right?
There's no point. Like
right.
I'm not. I said done, and got two sharks. Great, they've been very very helpful investors. So what happened was. A big fight broke out. Like, you should have done this. This was like giving him charity. Mind you, I had $90,000 in revenue as a college student within the first few months. And mind you, and in the tech industry, white dudes get money with on the napkin, right?
That's right.
And it was also not even a lot of money they invested. So it wasn't like so it didn't really mess up any economics at the time. And they were like, you should ask them more questions. You should dive into the deal. So it was a huge fight. And there was more. I mean, there was a walkout with Mark Cuban, Kevin O'Leary, and Robert Hershevak walked out.
Oh, wow.
They stormed out. And there was more to that conversation. I will say that, there was the production side and that was what you saw on TV. But I will say that Mark and Robert, they were all throwing compliments throughout the thing. It was definitely, I kind of hate how they got positioned as like, because, that made it look bad. But I really felt bad because they were like, oh, he's smart. I probably could have got a deal from like one of them potentially. Because they were like, it wasn't a lot of money. It was, they loved the impact driven of the company, but they walked out and Black Twitter jumped on them. It was this whole, because that episode went viral because of that.
Right.
And it was content about race, 8% charity. They got, it just, there was a lot of people, there was a lot of hashtags there. But I got a ton of PR from him. Scholly became #1 in the App Store for both iPhone and Android for about 6 weeks.
That's awesome.
The show kept getting rerun. It was getting brought up by everyone. It was getting hit up by a reporter. It changed my life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Shark, it's just for obvious reasons. But it was an interesting experience. And it was just, I remember our site was getting hit like thousands of times per second.
Wow.
And then the fight just made it even more viral.
Of course.
Some of the sites, our partners, scholarship partners, literally hit us up and was like, our site just crashed because there were so many people hitting their site using the product. So it was just a amazing moment for my team, going from like, making tens of thousands of dollars a day. Like it was just, we're just starting. I'm in college. I got my two co-founders, and my friends who stepped up and just was able to watching our AWS service. AWS used as kind of as a case study, give us those free credits. But it was good. It was a really life-changing moment for me, and it just set the pace for that. And then Everything else was easy after. I only ended up raising $400K in a seed round just 5 years ago, and that was like Kevin Plank from Under Armour, Steve Case to rather the rest, and Josh Kaufman first round capital, and the money I got from Shark Tank, and I really built Scholly to be profitable since.
And that's it. Those are the only investors.
400K.
Wow. You've said a few times when you described the Shark Tank example that was one of the most pivotal moments. How did it feel to graduate from college, being the first person, and then debt free?
Yeah, so I was actually I appeared on Shark Tank my senior year of college. So yeah, that was So it was a lot going on my senior year. I was missing a lot of classes. They worked with me.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so I graduated on a national TV show. Now running this tech startup. I'm new to the space. And I graduated debt free, and it was just all these life changing moments happening in 1 year. I couldn't really even enjoy it, frankly, my graduation, because I was too busy like working on Scholly stuff. We were still getting presents. It felt like what was going on with Scholly, that post Shark Tank.
Gotcha. You I got to walk across the stage and get this piece of paper.
To get back to like I had to get this opportunity and whatever. And the school was super proud. Drexel was obviously very proud. Birmingham was super proud. So it was a really good moment. And again, like I was kind of, at that time, it's very few tech founders who had some visibility, right?
Gotcha.
And especially in a mainstream way. I think there were people who started tech companies in certain circles, but like that kind of mainstream, that attention. Shark Tank obviously
helped.
10 million view at the time. That was kind of helpful. But yeah, so that's where we were. Yeah.
Let's say you write another book. What does your life look like 5 years from now?
I think there will be an exit, a liquidity event of Scholly that will happen, and then it will be really talking about what phase 2 of that will be. And I think the book, my first book really chronicles just kind of getting to building a successful company. And I think I do want people to understand, what's next, and kind of be a book that's more business centric than life centric. I think that first chapter is kind of done. I think being kind of probably more thought leadership focused, but there will be post and exit. I will start another company. I thought about, I've some liquidity, so I've thought about investing, but I realized that I want to take another swing at the bat, and I realized that if I saw a kind of idea, I kind of may have that Travis Cadillac kind of moment. I love this. Personal opinions of them aside, I like this idea so much. I'm gonna write you a check. Like, I probably gonna do it. That's just me. And also I like to really focus my energy on one thing, but I do eventually will like to get in the beast right. But I definitely want to start that next company that will be that multi-billion-dollar exit, potential IPO, and just have that. But 5 years, I don't know if I can do it 5 years, but I know exit would be soon. And there will be just a new venture, but a new venture in a being a second time founder, which with more equity, and being able to, in that book, be able to give more thought leadership in an authoritative way, because I did it. Versus kind of like, hey, this is my story and now I'm successful kind of thing. It'd be, that way. So
you just mentioned another company that could be coming down. Any kids, family?
Yes. Yes, I do. And then I do want to settle. I do want to settle down. And I do want kids. I feel like generational wealth is extremely important to me. So I feel like there will be no point for me personally doing all this if I can't, really pass that down to anyone. I don't want partner or not at that time. That is something I want to do. And luckily I've worked hard to be in a financial position to be able to do that and still do that and still balance that with work and, have the support I need. But that's, I do want kids. I do want that to be a phase, in my life. That's very important to me because of my unique relationship with my family at this time. I think it's going to be important for me to feel like, how can I, and through therapy that I do every single week for many years, being able to like really try to raise my kids in a way and instill the right values, and instill the values that I want in them. So,
putting the business completely aside, what is your proudest personal moment?
My proudest personal moment, it's not related to business, but it's really interesting, was that my first ever intern, who ever interned for me, actually appeared on Shark Tank.
Oh, wow.
A few years ago.
Wow.
And through the same producers that I connected him to.
That's awesome.
And that was really, and it was like, I was a mentor, and he was like, he was in high school actually at the time.
Wow.
And he appeared when he was in college.
Wow.
And he's a company today. So it was, I'm really about like mentorship and really
Mm-hmm.
being a connector. So that was really a proud personal moment for
Yeah.
me. I think there are others, but it was kind of more recent because I think I wanted to highlight the importance of mentorship and also using the things that were hard for you to get access to
Yep.
and making it easier for others, especially with people of color,
Yeah.
and also just being a pass back.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
It was great. Obviously, everybody knows all your successful stuff professionally, but it was great to get to know you personally. I've actually learned so much. I've been a huge fan. I'm an even
Mm.
bigger fan. I would say thank you for being on the porch, but the weather was not kind, so thank you
Yeah.
for being in the living room.
Thank you for having me.